My fellow Clevelanders have heard of these landmarks: the Cleveland Museum of Art, the Cleveland Brown Stadium, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, to name a few. Today, I talked to Sandra Madison, CEO and chairperson of Robert P. Madison International, the firm who has worked in these landmarks. Sandra will share her path to CEO, starting from her humble beginnings in Baltimore. Welcome to the Architect My Life podcast. I'm your host, Aya Shlachter, CEO of MGS Global Group. We provide on-demand drafting services to overwhelmed architects and design firm owners. In this podcast, we talk to successful women firm owners about challenges to running a business while balancing their lives. My company's mission is to help architects and designers maintain a healthy work-life balance. Architect My Life is where we learn how to achieve your goals through genuine stories and conversations with successful women in the industry. Hi, everyone. This is Aya Shlachter, and welcome back to the Architect My Life podcast. Our guest today is Sandra Madison. Sandra is a CEO and chairperson of Robert P. Madison International, and it's the first African-American owned architecture firm in the state of Ohio, and only the 10th in the United States. RPMI has an impressive portfolio and played significant roles in several landmarks in Cleveland, such as the Cleveland Museum of Art, the Cleveland Brown Stadium, Quicken Loans Arena, Great Lakes Science Center, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, to name a few. Sandra has won several awards, including Top CEO by Crain's Cleveland Business, and her most recent one was a YWCA Women of Achievement Award in 2022. So I'm so thrilled to talk to her today. So help me welcome Sandra to the show. Hi, Sandra.
Hi, Aya. How are you? It's so good to be here. So good to be here.
Thanks. I know you're extremely busy. I mean, based on all the projects you're working on. So I'm so glad you're here. How's your summer going? Or end of summer?
It went too fast, but it was wonderful. It was very mild and very busy, which is always a good thing in our profession.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, everyone is slammed right now, so It's a good thing. So, just wanted to talk about your origin story so people, know who you are. I mean, Sandra is well known in Cleveland. Like, I've been, stalking Sandra for the last 4 years, and I'm so happy that she's in the podcast. But tell me about the most influential person, place, or event that made you pursue architecture.
Oh, wow. I would say the most influential event was my life situation as a child, just where I grew up. It wasn't the prettiest, the most affluent area. It was actually probably one of the worst areas in the city of Baltimore. And as a kid, even then, I always believed that things could be better. It made me feel better when things were more beautiful around me. So I was always trying to make things prettier, whether it was planting flowers, whether it was painting my room, or rearranging my little tenement that we lived in, or whatever it was. But it was always that, and I didn't know at that time what kind of career that would lead me into. But that's how I got to where I am now.
So you really are a creative at heart.
Oh, absolutely.
And you pursued your passion. So like, as a woman of color, and also a minority, what are your early career struggles that shaped who you are today? Can you cite specific examples of some struggles that shaped you?
Sure. For instance, when I graduated, trying to find a job was very difficult. And I attributed to many things. Not only was the market very tight, but also I think I attributed to the fact that I was a little brown girl who didn't really understand who I was. And so, but I was able to find a job, which was a great thing. And I had to work very hard, and that was okay because that's what I was used to doing anyway. So I studied very hard, I did as much research. At that time, there was no internet, so and now you could find a lot of things.
Yeah.
A lot of things you had to pretty much research, whether it was in a book or whether it was doing extracurricular, asking to go out on sites. But you just had to work hard to get where you were. So, and also just being heard. If you had to go out to a meeting, for instance, if you said something, could have been the same thing that your colleague would have said. If they heard them, didn't hear you, even if it was the same thing. It was sort of like trying to be heard, or they were trivially thinking that you were, the secretary instead of an architect on site.
Go get coffee kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So it's those were challenging times. So I had to learn to speak up and introduce myself and make sure that they understood that I am an architect and and that I've accomplished what I need to accomplish to be in that room. So it was that was a challenging part, but it wasn't everywhere. It was only a few places and with a few people. But I think that as long as you are confident in yourself, you will be fine. I mean, people will listen. And so, like I said, it wasn't everywhere. It was only those few instances. And it does sort of hit you in the face when it happens because you're like sort of shocked, like, okay, I didn't quite hear that, or, because you're just not used to it. But at least you don't want to become used to it. And, so, yeah.
I guess hard work really creates confidence as well because you know everything about what you're doing. So a lot of people probably don't know how you ended up in Cleveland from Maryland. Can you talk about that and who Robert Madison is in relation to you and the family?
Sure. So, like I said, I grew up in Baltimore. Went to school in Baltimore. Was working in Baltimore where I met my husband, who was working in the same firm that I worked in, the first firm that I worked in. He came from a family who was very, very well known here in Cleveland, which I didn't know about. I didn't know about it. Again, I never traveled too far out of Baltimore. We didn't have a car when I grew up. We just stayed in Baltimore. It was funny because it was actually one of my colleagues who says, "You never heard of the Madisons?" And I'm like, "No." And she says, "Oh, you look up and find out who, learn about, who the Madisons are." And this is before my husband and I were married, but it was just a friend of mine says, "Yeah, this is who they are." I'm like, "Okay." I was like, "Okay, they're people. They've made some achievements. Okay, not a big deal." But my husband and I, we got married, and that's a funny story too. But I won't go into that. But we did get married, and we've been married for maybe a year and 2.5 years. I'm trying to think. My son was like 18 months, a little bit more. It was like 3 years. We had just bought our first house, and we got a call from Robert Madison that he needed architects because he had a large project. And that time, it was several large projects working on the what was then the Gund Arena, which was the Cavs, place of business, which is now Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. But we did the original building, the Gun Arena. And so he says, we need architects here. And because my husband and I are both architects, he says, would you guys want to relocate here? And we were like looking at each other, like, do we really want to pull up? We just bought this house. We love that house. We only been there like maybe 6 months, and we're like, oh. But my son was young. I think he was 18 months or somewhere around in that age. And I said, if we're gonna change states and move away, this is the best time for him. Because I didn't want to uproot him when he's older and have more kids and has more friends. So we put our house on the market and moved to Cleveland. And that was 32 years ago.
So do you consider Cleveland your home now?
I do. I actually live in
great.
Cleveland and I've lived in Baltimore now. So yeah, pretty much. Cleveland is, I moved for
you've been working in RPMI for like 24 years. And tell me about your path to CEO. Like, how did that happen? I mean, Just, I mean, I'm
Like
curious
that.
to know how you got there.
Well, that's an interesting story as well. So my husband and I both, we both worked for Robert. And Robert originally didn't want to hire me because he said he didn't like to hire husband-wife teams. But he asked us both to move here, so I was a little
That's
curious.
valid. That's valid.
Yeah, he says, I want you guys to stay married. I don't want you to mess up your marriage. You shouldn't work together. I said, we've been working together in Baltimore all these years. I says, we've got this down pat. We got this. So he hired me, and uh, from there, we worked for years and years. We worked our way up the ladder. Robert did not believe in nepotism. We had to work our way up the ladder. Worked our way from project architect to project manager, and into some other things. But he did not believe senior associate, all of those things. We had to work our way up, which was fine for me. So I think that's wouldn't want a handout. I want to earn my way. Um, so Robert, again, believes in work. He loves work. He loves architecture. He did not retire till he was 92. He's now 99, so that was almost 7 years ago. 7 years, and next March will have retired. But before that, he never really knew when he was going to retire. He never really let on that he was going to retire. But when my aunt, his wife, started to fail, her health started to fail, he wasn't able to come into the office as often. So it left a lot of the management and administrative work to myself and my husband and another colleague. We were the three, at that time, senior people. There was another man that was ahead of us who was senior vice president. He died suddenly. I mean, just one day he was here, one day he was not. So it really left the three of us to pick up, split the duties of Robert, his vice president, who retired right before that. So between, just split up the work between Robert, vice principal, and then the executive vice principal. So that's how it began. And he would come in. At first, it was maybe once a week. Then it went to maybe twice once every 2 weeks, and then every month. And he would slowly give us more reins. We'd come in and say, do you need anything I need to help? We said, no, we got this, go ahead. And so after a while, he saw that we were running the company and doing well. And he said, okay, I think, I can retire and you guys have this and see that how to run the company. And so that's how, we did. We actually originally split it up, 33% between all of us. But my husband did not want to be the face of the company, it's his family name, but he didn't want to be the face of the company. He says, no, he says, that's not for me. I'd rather be, the one inside the office, the one that's production, making sure everything is running smoothly, which is what he was very good at. And so that sort of pushed me out in the front. Something that I didn't ever want to do. I didn't want to do that either, but I knew it had to be one of the two of us. So that's how I became the CEO and majority owner. But I now embrace it. I was very clunky in the beginning, trying to figure it all out. But it's let's just say I wasn't natural at it. It wasn't something that came naturally to me because it wasn't something that I always wanted. That I always wanted to do. But because I like the design end of it, to being hands-on. But I've grown into it. I like being CEO now. I like actually going out in the public and speaking to people. I'm getting better at it. So that's how I got there. I don't know. I don't know how many other people had something similar for them, but that was my path of getting there. So
that's great that they trusted you and that they pushed you forward. I think it's really, very inspiring for women in architecture also, like to have a woman CEO running like major projects in Cleveland. These are not tiny, no name projects.
no,
um,
not at all.
so what was the hardest part about transitioning from architect to CEO?
Delegating more, letting go. That was hard for me because I was always very hands-on, very much in the design, very much into the details, very much into the day-to-day emails and meetings and meeting with clients. Even though I know every client that we have, and I've been in one or two meetings, I'm not there like I was before, where I was the face of that project or a couple of projects. I'm now just a principal in charge, but I'm not there every day. If something they need my help on, they'll call me directly. But for the most part, I'm not there hands-on. Now, not to say that I don't know what's happening on every project in the building. I have to know what's going on. Like before it goes on, I gotta make sure that it looks like it's up to par to our standards. So it's not like I don't know what's going on. I just don't know all of the intimate details. But I get briefed. We have a meeting every week, and I get briefed on every project. So
You know what my dad said about being CEO? He's like, it's a simple job. You just have to know everything about every project,
exactly.
right? And
And
that's
you
it.
do.
So, under your leadership, Sandra, what is like your most proudest moment or project or accomplishment for the firm? Let's start with the project, and maybe, what is like the biggest project or that you got under your leadership?
Ooh. Um, Under our leadership, I believe I would say it was the in Cleveland. Um, and after that, got some, I don't know, so there's some school projects that we've worked on since then. We worked on some projects with the Guardians. But there wasn't a large dollar amount for us, but it was a pretty, what do you say, iconic, type of project for us. But right now we're working on, I don't even know, some things. We're working on some things that we can't really say right now because we have an NDA until it's all public. But
Okay.
um, we got we have two very large projects that we're working on right now. One is not an NDA any longer because I know it's on their website, so I know we're working on it. Cheryl Williams working on that project.
Oh my
Um,
God, congratulations. I saw that on the website.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And there's another one, and I'm still trying to remember. Is that one still an NDA? Um, well, we're working on the Rock Hall of Fame as well. Their expansion. Um, I don't think that's an NDA. If I am, I'm going to get in trouble. But
It's nice that you just say it like nonchalantly, like, like
oh,
I grew up, in the Philippines. I moved to the US and we studied the Rock Hall of Fame, and it's nice to see.
oh,
I mean, right? Like
you're
that's what
dating me now because we worked on that original building with Peg. Oh my gosh.
I know, but that's amazing because I mean, I'm talking to you and you're responsible for, also helping pay maybe with the entire project. I don't know what the involvement was, but I mean, I studied this
Because
in
we
high
were the
school and
local.
college. Oh, so you
Yeah,
were the local
yeah,
architect
we
of
were the
record.
local architect of record on the lower level for all of their exhibit space. And then we also were the local liaison between, the building department and the and pay because we were local right here. So we could do all of the administrative stuff going back and forth. But we were the um, architect of record for the um, lower level exhibit space. So
Wow. I mean, your projects are really very inspiring as well because it's also a very creative project. It's not just like, I mean, a hospital is great to work on. It's very hard to work on a hospital because I've done hospital work, but also being able to work at the Rock and all these museums, it makes it worthwhile. So what's your favorite job of being CEO?
still for me, um, there's two. Caramel House, which I love. I love working there. I love the creative minds that are there and the architecture that's there. Because it's money is always tight there. So you have to be very creative with the dollars that they have. So that brings out the creative juices and just working with the people, knowing the history of Caramel House. I don't know if you know the history is the oldest, well, it's the first Black in the country, Black theater in the country. At
And that's
100,
in Cleveland?
it's here in Cleveland. So
Yeah.
we're doing, in fact, we're doing phase 3 right now. If you ride by Quincy and 89th, you'll see steel going up. It started going up today. You see I have my jacket. I just got back not too long ago. They're actually putting up steel on Quincy and 89th. So that's something that we've been waiting on since COVID. We had to stop because of COVID. Now it's finally going through. That's one. And then also working with CMSD. I love working with CMSD. I love the fact of building schools for children. Just seeing, I think we've done maybe 7 or 8 schools with CMSD. Just seeing the expressions on their face on that day when they come to a new school, it's, you can't replace that with anything. They're
CMSC, can you expand? What is it?
Oh
Cleveland?
yeah, Cleveland Metropolitan School District.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cleveland, for the people who don't know what it is, Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Is it like K through 12 that you're working on?
So we're doing K-8. All the schools that we worked on so far have been K-8s, kindergarten, pre-K, actually pre-K,
Oh,
4-year-olds through the 8th grade. I think we've done about 7 schools, and we're actually working on 2 more right now. We're working on 2 schools for them.
my head is spinning, Sandra, with all your projects. I'm not even working with you.
Well, like I said, it keeps me busy. It keeps me up at night sometimes too because there's so many of it.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing though. I'm enjoying this time. And there were times, when there was no work, not pre-COVID, but was it 2010 when everything crashed? 2009,
2008 or 9.
2008
Yeah.
and 9, the way everything crashed. That was a very rough time. But yeah, so I'm enjoying this time. I've been on the other side. Having
But you
work.
didn't slow down during COVID, right? Because you had a lot of school projects.
Yes, we did not. We were very lucky in that we still had work that we could do on the board. So we had to pivot like everyone else. We were working from home, where we had never worked from home before. We always worked in the office, but we had to pivot, and everyone worked from home, and we got the work done. We found that now we're doing both. We're working home and office, give people more flexibility. Everybody's happier. If your child is sick, you can stay home. If you're sick, you stay home. Don't come in. If you got somebody coming to your home for repair, you can stay home and work, and still get your work done. So it works out for everything. It's one thing that COVID did. One of the good things that came out of COVID is it a lot of the industry realized that people can actually work from home and get the work done as well.
Actually, they're more productive. My staff too, like 80% of my team works from home, because in the Philippines there's a lot of traffic, and like 3 hours is gone already just being in the car. So it
just like
works.
now, and just like now, just talking through Zoom or through another platform saves time from going from meeting to meeting. I used to spend so much time in my car driving to a meeting. And, a lot of them now are, virtual, which you get the same done. And there's sometimes when you do have to work together and face to face, but a lot of the time you do not have to do that. So it does save time.
Yeah. It's a whole like behavioral shift in the entire world, which is good, So what's your leadership style?
Oh, good. Oh, wow. I'm hoping my leadership style, I think it is, I hope they don't see me as the boss. They see me as someone who they can come to for questions that can be answered. That's something where I ask them as many questions as they probably ask me sometimes. So, and I let them know that I don't know everything. I have to look things up myself. I just had a student a young girl come in and say, I said, I don't, sometimes you have to Google stuff and figure it out. You read, you do research. I don't know it all either. There's a lot out there in our profession that you cannot be an expert in everything. So I hope I have that kind of a leadership style. We have meetings. They make suggestions. We all vote on it. I think it's a very democratic office, and we move forward. We try it out. If it doesn't work, we tweak it. So I think I hope and you'll have to probably the best question is to ask someone in my office how they like working with me and how we if that's really how it is. Yes, and I'm going to tell you, I originally adopted a lot of the protocols and things that we had from our old, from Robert was there to the old regime. I want to call it that. Because that's, and carried it through. But I also knew I wanted to change some things. I knew that as a female architect and knowing some of the things that coming from a male perspective, that as a woman, I wanted to change. And so one of the first things we did was go through our manual and make changes as far as number one. And also I just went through also and looked at all the salaries. And if I thought the salaries weren't right, we fixed it. Because and I'm not going to say it was ever intentional, but I just saw that some things just needed to be fixed, I thought.
That's amazing. I'm sure some of them were so happy. Maybe some of them didn't have a raise in so many years or whatever.
Yeah, you have to after a while. When you look at it, and I'm not saying they didn't think about it. I just think that sometimes you get so caught up in the everyday. And then also when things were able to, I guess when we took over, which was in 2016, things were back. We were starting to get things back up on the rise as far as, I guess, work. So, we were getting steady income coming in, and we were able to then look at and make those adjustments in salaries for people who have been here for a very long time and for people that thought deserved to have a raise. And also just figuring out also what the scale was. For many years, our scale was low. I mean, our pay scale was low compared to everyone else's because we didn't know.
In Cleveland or internationally?
In Cleveland and internationally.
Oh, okay, okay.
I remember going into a meeting and someone said, your pay scale is pretty low. You need to increase your pay scale. We looked at each other like, and this is when we just first came, partners, and we didn't know because we've been here, 20-some years. We didn't know what anybody else was getting paid. We just don't know. You see what the scale is on, on the screen. You're like, okay. But as far as the competition, you don't know what's out there. And someone just pulled me aside and said, your scales are low. You need to increase your pay scale. We're like, oh, really? Increase your, So I'm like, oh. So once we started, figuring all that out and looking at, paying more attention and looking at what's across the country, not just here in Cleveland, but whether it's in other parts of the state and wherever it is in other parts of the state, and then just doing more research, we decided we need to fix this.
Yeah, especially now when people are making noise in a lot of the, like the profession, people are burning out. We're always underpaid. Like in general, architects are underpaid. And there's like a survey. Yeah, there's a survey actually of the salaries that's published. So it's good. I mean, our employees are really, the key to our success. Who's going to take care of our clients, right? So we need to take care of them, and they spend probably 60 or 70% of their lives at work.
Exactly. And they work hard. I mean, they 5 years of schooling. I mean, you come out, if you don't make enough to at least pay back your debt from, loans and all that, it makes no sense. I mean, who wants to go into this profession? Who would want to go into a profession that, and not make any money once you get out?
Well, your daughter did.
Yes, she did.
Okay, how did you swing that? I'm gonna segue to family business because when my best friend's daughter Sandra asked me 4 years ago, she's like, my daughter wants to go to architecture school, and I'm like, anyway,
right? Exactly. It is funny.
So,
how did my daughter?
Tell me about Maya and how she became an architect. I mean, she probably saw you hustling and working days and nights and weekends, and she still wanted to be an architect.
Well, let's put it this way. Okay, so Maya, you're right, because I remember I would bring in Maya to my office on weekends. She would play underneath my desk while I'm drawing. Because when she was very young, we were still doing a lot of things on board during the gun arena. back then when it was a gun, we were drawing everything. We were inking things, right? Everything was done with pen and ink.
I did that too.
Yeah, you're right. So she was under my desk, playing with her dolls, whatever she was doing down, where she was drawing or whatever. Something she always liked to do was draw. And so she knew what it was like to come to work with mommy, right? On Saturdays and Sundays or whatever it was when we had deadlines. But when she got older, I mean, even when she was young, though, when she was like 2, 3, she could draw. I mean, she was an amazing person. She could, at that age, her perception of scale and just her eyesight. I mean, how she could draw and pick up details at such a young age. I remember watching her draw a tree, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's only 3, and she drew that tree pretty darn good. And then she would step back and squint. I'm like, how does she know to do that? To squint, how you squint to see the detail. And I was like, okay, this is a little different. And so, but then she just grew, and her talent just grew, and that. So I knew she always was very talented that way, and I also knew that she loved math. She was very good at math. 2 things that I thought was crucial for architects, even though people say we need a lot of math. I don't know how much we use it as much as they think.
Yeah, we actually don't use it. People think I'm really smart at math, but
right.
I can fix the books. I can, that's the only math I do. How much did I get?
I could put together foot and inches. I could do all that pretty quickly. Okay, so I don't know why they think you had to be good at math. I mean, but those are 2 things they look for. Counselors look for. But I said, and Amaya was like 11th grade, pulling her hair. Everybody else in her class knew what they wanted to do, and she was like, everybody knows what they want to do except me. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know. I want to be. I love art. Because at that time she had taken classes at CIA, Cleveland Institute of Art. She done a lot of taken a lot of art classes at Shaker Heights High, and she knew she loved art. I mean, art was like she was always excelled. She'd won as a senior, won a competition to do an art piece on the wall at the high school. I mean, she was just very good. And I'm not just saying it's because she's my daughter, she's much better than I was. I thought I was pretty good. But anyway, so she was pulling her hair out, didn't know what she wanted to do. And I said, Maya, I don't know why you're fighting it. Why don't you try architecture? She says, I don't know. You worked so hard. I don't know if I want to do it. You were always working. I said, yeah, but I said, you would be very good at this. I said, but you have to want to do it. I said, I can't push you into it because it's something you have to do. And you will know right away whether you want to be in this profession or not, because you're going to work so hard in school. You will know right away whether it's for you or it's not for you. And so she thought she tried it. She put her portfolio together. She got accepted to like several schools. And the one school that she really wanted to go into, get admitted to, she got really good money to go there. And she always wanted to go to New York. She got accepted into Syracuse. She went to Syracuse.
Oh, wow.
Loved it. So we didn't have to convince her. She said,
that's good.
What I want to do. And so she's been there, and she's been in New York. She's still in New York right now.
But she joined the firm, right? She joined
the firm. She's opening our New York office.
Oh my God! Congratulations, Sandra. It would have been nice if she all lived in the same, city. But I think New York is
that was
good.
The original plan.
I know we talked during the summer. I thought she was moving with her fiance, right?
She still will. She says she will, but right now, for the time being, she is still living in New York. And she kept saying, Mom, do I have to come now? Can I just open a firm here? There's a lot of opportunities here. And I said, look, and she was I could tell she was very nervous and, wasn't sure how I was going to take that. And I said, look, Maya, I said, this is your life. I want you to, be happy. If you want to, work out of New York, and if you want to open up an office there, I said, do it. I said, because you're the future. I'm not. You're the future of this company. I said, so that's what she is looking. That's what she's working on.
That's
Um,
great.
so I
RPMI New York City office. That's
yes,
exciting. You have to go
first said
international.
here, right? First said here, right?
It's RPMI International. So, you know,
Yeah, so the international, just to let you know why that came about is because Robert got a I mean, I don't know what year that was, but he got a work to do an embassy in Dakar. And so Dakar, Senegal. So that's why it was international. That was, I think that's the only project he got abroad, but he kept it international. And we call it international now because our office has really people from all over the world. And we've always had people from at least 4 or 5 different continents here. So we kept the international, calling it our people. We're international
yeah.
standpoint. So um, yeah, that's how we keep that name.
That's great, Sandra. Like as we're gonna, wrap up, I just wanted to mention that one of the things I admire most about you is your humility. You're such a low-key powerhouse. And when I saw you in the the Cleveland cruise, we were both injured and I'm like, oh, should I sit next to Sandra? I just want to say hi. And you were so warm and your staff, they were I think you're the type of boss that people very approachable because they were just partying in front of you. They felt at home with you. So you're like their mother figure, I suppose. That was my impression.
Well,
Um,
I hope they see me as family. I mean, that's how I prefer. I mean, I don't want to be, anything other than that. Somebody they have to be approachable. I think if you're not approachable, there's something wrong. I don't think I want to work for someone who's not approachable.
yeah.
And every firm that I worked for, I worked for 4 firms, and the ones that I didn't work that were not approachable, I stayed for maybe average of 6 months and I left. So it was 2 firms that
Oh,
I stayed with the longest before I came here. The other two just weren't approachable, and I didn't feel that warmth. I didn't feel like I was going to be nurtured to learn, or I think they just wanted to use me as a paycheck, and that's it. Now that's not. You're spending most of your time in an office. You do not want
right.
to feel like you can't
Yeah.
approach the people that you work for. So.
So I saw one of your TV interviews and you mentioned what your mom said early in your career or early when she said you have to help someone else while you're growing. And you also mentioned uplifting people is what drives you. Can you talk about this? This is like to conclude our episode.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, why else are we here? We always, if I'm a very reflective person, I think we're all here for a reason. Everybody has a reason why they're here, and I believe in a higher power, so I'm very spiritual in that way. So we're here, number one, to to um to me to help each other. We all have to help one another thrive. That's how I think we're our brother's keeper. I that's my philosophy. I know it's not everyone's philosophy, but it's mine. And I guess for me, that's what makes me feel good in the morning, knowing that if I see someone on the street, and I know there's a lot of people on the street that are down on their luck, if I'm able to give them a meal or give them something to help them brighten their day, or that makes me feel like I've done something to help somebody else. That might be me. It might be my child one day. I would love for someone to give me that, to reach back and help me. So that's why I say that you need to treat others like you want to be treated. If somebody down there luck them that one day, if they just need a meal, be there because you don't know where you're going to be tomorrow. There's no guarantees tomorrow, or your relative. You never know who it might be. So that's what my mom always did. We didn't have much, but she helped wherever she could. She was, I mean, I say she could stretch a meal. She could feed the block if she had to. And that's what she did when she could, and we just and we were happy. I mean, you don't need much to be happy. And I think that we can help someone else, that to me makes me happy.
Thank you so much, Sandra. It was such a pleasure talking to you today. And thank you for giving us women so much hope and inspiration. that we can do it, and there's always room at the top, right?
That's right. Absolutely. And thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure talking with you. And maybe we'll see each other before the next boat ride.
That was Sandra Madison, CEO and Chairperson of Robert P. Madison International. Thank you for listening to this podcast. And if you're still around, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Please take a moment to review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We're open to know what you'd like to see covered in future episodes, so don't hesitate to reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, or be part of the Architect My Life community.